sleepy, so she prescribed it for that issue. But one of my fears was that I was going to be out of it completely, and if I ate late at night, that I might vomit and be so out of it that I wouldn't wake up and I'd choke to death on my own vomit. This was the thought inside of my head. Partially based on fact, because that has happened to people. They have choked in the middle of the night after being zonked out on whatever drugs and not waking up. You know, however, the dosage of the drugs has been much higher, and or this is the key ingredient, alcohol has been involved. And the alcohol, not the eating late at night, that's not good anyways. You shouldn't do that because you might upset your stomach, and there is a small possibility that you might throw up. The thing that made it such a huge possibility is the fact that these people that I was thinking of, like Jimi Hendrix, for example, took a ton of sleeping pills and drank a shitload. And if you drink, it makes you bleh. And that's what killed these people. And, but I was afraid, oh my God, what if that happens to me? There's that fear. I mostly have dispelled that fear. I mean, I still worry about it a little bit, which is why I won't up the dosage on the trazodone. I'm okay if I'm on 100 milligrams and it takes me 3 hours to fall asleep. I'm okay with that. I don't want to risk making it higher and then really not being able to wake up. I mean, I don't know, because, technically, I started all this, I've been on this medication. I take trazodone, I take the gabapentin, which also, for your nervous system. It's not very well, it helps with nerve pain. I take that, but it also has a side effect of making you sleepy. And the melatonin, I still take that. So I take several things to make me sleepy at night. I don't know that if something happened even though it takes me a long time to fall asleep, 3 hours, 2 hours, whatever, I do eventually fall asleep. I wake up with my alarm. I assume that means that, God forbid, if there was a fire and my roommate came in and tried to wake me up and said, Mary, there's a fire, get the fuck up. I'm assuming I would wake up. I don't know. I certainly hope. But the fact that I wake up to my alarm tells me that I can be woken up. Yeah. And when you think about it too, I mean, I work with other people who take these same medications to help them sleep. And they're okay. they sleep through the night. It might be a process to get them to wake them up in the middle of the night if something was wrong, but I think that it could be done. So, anyways, I hope I remembered everything. It's a lot. It's a lot to remember. And actually, even going over some of it, like last night I was watching this series called Maniac. And it was about people, well, one of the people, well, no, it was about mental health in general. An experiment, a science experiment, where they were trying to cure people from what ailed their minds. I'm not going to go into big details about it, but the beginning of the film, the main character has schizophrenia, and in order to effectively portray what's going on with him, they use a lot of special effects and stuff. The way that the story unfolds, is just that. It's very manic. And it was hard for me to watch. I was fascinated, but at the same time, I had to stop more than once because I couldn't be in that headspace. I started to feel anxiety. I started to trip out, and I had to get up and stop what I was doing. Stop watching. I didn't think that was going to happen, but it did. And, I went forward anyways. And I watched the whole thing, and it was a great series, by the way. But that's another thing that my friend, the one who deals with schizoaffective disorder, told me. He said that there are certain things he really, and this all has to do with controlling the mind, or rather influencing the mind. There are certain things that he cannot watch. Certain things that he cannot do, because he knows that they will be triggers for him. Or just simply bad reminders of shit that he's been through. And I get that. I get that. That happened to me last night. Yeah. I don't know that that's always going to be the case. But I thought it was interesting. And just even sitting and talking about it right now is bringing on some things, like some feelings of anxiety, just even being in this room and talking about it. And just, it's also because I haven't gotten a whole lot of sleep in the past 3 days. Again, that's my fault for staying up late. I will not be staying up late tonight. But yeah, it's just when you recall stuff, just the feelings that come back with it. It's just, I don't know. It's scary, but it's kind of cool. I don't know. The mind is fascinating to me. I kind of like, I'm equating it to, okay, like people who have gone through wartime experiences, horrible, things that, dark, terrible times, okay, like where they can't watch certain movies that are about the same subject because it'll trigger them. Mm. Yeah. Yeah. And just the thoughts that, can, feelings and thoughts, and it can take you over and stuff. It's trippy. I've actually started to, on my friend's suggestion, during the middle of all of this, one of the things that he recommended that I do in order to try and help control my thoughts and control some of the feelings I was having, the anxiety, the craziness essentially, was to try meditation. In order to get some control back, some peace of mind, literally. It's always appealed to me. I've never really seriously tried it, but that's something that I have started out with. And I know that my dad had experimented with it in the past before too, and I remember one of the things when he was dying and going through not being able to breathe and suffocating, and that horrible, scary experience. The nurses there tried to coach him on breathing and concentrating on his breath. Not just to help him physically, but to help control his fear. And to help him to die in a more peaceful way, to gain back some kind of control in crazy circumstances. I remember him not being able to speak anymore and just going through the breathlessness and just concentrating his whole mind and body and being on breathing. And I have to wonder, I saw him doing that until it got to the point at first was like when he was going through the final respiratory distress episode, in his final episode of respiratory distress that led up to his death. It's like the anxiety and the breathlessness and the craziness was like up here, just eventually the craziness came down lower and lower and lower and lower. And no, he couldn't get any more oxygen. But his breaths, I want to say some of his experience with meditation may have influenced how he went out, because it seems like he completely concentrated on his breathing and gaining some control back, and completely it's like he got things calm enough and got enough control back. And it's like after that, his body, he died. And I don't know how much of that was, up here craziness, I can't breathe, and then eventually your body gets tired and your heart stops. I know that's some of it, but I have to wonder how much of it in those moments, how much of it was also personal discipline. How much did his experience with that in his life earlier on help him to deal with that experience, the experience of dying? And it certainly can't hurt for me to practice some meditation. Because, like my dad was telling me before he died, there was a movie he wanted me to see. And it's an older movie. It's called Runaway Train. And if I remember correctly, it is an English adaptation of a Japanese novel or something like that. Still haven't watched it. I need to. But, it was him trying to coach me and tell me about life. That, life is a runaway train, and essentially what happens in the story is that there's a bunch of people on this train that has lost control, and it's going to crash and everybody's going to die, and it's like different people's ways of how they handle it. And there's like one guy who's on the train who basically like accepts his fate and kind of just sits there calmly and smiles. And everybody else is frantic and running around. Oh my God, we're gonna die, we're gonna die, we're gonna die. And they're trying to ask him, well, why are you just sitting there, what are you doing, And he just calmly replies that I'm in control right now, and you're not. And that was it. Life is crazy. Our minds can go crazy. And we have to find ways to be able to cope with it when that happens. So anyways, that's my tale. Sorry if I dragged on with it, but I needed to record this. And if anybody watches this, I hope it does you some good. Anyways, as my dad would say, be well.